This cush driving my compass, pull up with clouds floating, smoking, my eyes closing, potent cause mind motion, move it with more doses, emotions cause you abuse it, heart open to music, falling because
What's good? It's me, Mighty P, Candy Factory, bringing you another short little video. It's just a quickie on the wet clears because we've had a fair bit of questions about it. We're getting things moving over here now in Perth to make it available, and it's just been a few questions on what to use, when to use it, and how to use it. So yeah, just a quick little, I guess, informal video on what we're doing. Apologies for not putting out any videos. We've been busy. That's Chris's car in the back there, the 63 Impala. You can see it's in a flatted down state. Two-tone roof and everything. We've got that going on. That's been an ongoing project. We're going to drop a video on that one soon. More of a slideshow really, just the pictures we've taken along the way, because we've not really had time to make full videos. So I think the second video following that is going to be more of a you know, just a bit more of a close-up walk around rather than just pictures. But anyway, what we got here, we've got the OG, the original Wetwet. Now, a lot of people might be getting confused when you hear the Wetwet so many times, and you know, like the gunman said, the label's a bit busy, but you know what? It's American. That's how they do it, and that's how we get it. So that's what it is on that front. Now, the original Wetwet. Let's start from there because really that's the baby of the bunch. When we talk about the Wetwet, there's mainly 3 to 4 main clear coats in the family. We don't bring in the 44%. because it's very similar to the Extreme. What we bring in is the original Wetwet there. Now that's the baby of the bunch. That one is 39 to 40% solid. It's a 4-to-1 mix, so it's going to go down just that little bit thinner than his than the big brothers. I would use that mainly on, say, like motorbike parts, small bits, anything you're doing that involves maybe a flow coat or a re-clear over the top of your existing work, and you really want to get that wet shine. That's the one I'd be going for on your smaller items. Your gun of choice, really, the Vilbis starter jet, whatever's good in the hand, 1.3, 1.4, really. Now, 40 psi is what they recommend. You can go anywhere from really 30 psi upwards. I know there's been a bit of talk about the whole 50 psi. I agree, it's pretty high. There's a bit of wastage, and you do get a lot of overspray. Now, if you're just spraying at your normal 29 psi 2 bar, you won't have a problem. You can up it a little bit from there if you think it's just a little bit too thick, just to, you know, counteract that with a bit of pressure, and you'll be fine. And as I say, your choice of gun, whether it's a starter jet, the Vilbis, it really doesn't matter. It's going to do the job. And that one there, you can see, is just that's just Holden. I think it's 690F. That there is just a normal black base coat from your paint supplier, and that's just got the Wetwet sitting over the top of that. 2 to 3 coats of the Wetwet, and that's what you can expect. And that's been on there for probably a good year now, I'd say. So that's what you can expect. Nothing's obviously polished because it's just a colour chip. You can see the bits of dirt in there as well. So that's what you can expect from that. Now, if you're doing something like a full repaint and you're doing base coat, clear coat, and then the job's done, I'll be reaching for the Wet Plus. That's the one for me. That's the good all-rounder. If you haven't used it before, you're used to painting high solid clears, the Wet Plus is going to be the one to go for. It's called the Plus because it's got more solid content than the Wetwet. That's got 39 to 40. This is up there around 42, 43 psi. That one there is going to be a good all-rounder. If you've never used the Wetwet before and you want to give it a go, the Wet Plus is the one to reach for. And I'll be putting that over my candies as well. These have got the Wet Plus on them. It's Farah Gold. and Phoenix Orange before the questions come out. Beautiful colours, and that's just the wet. That's just like 2 coats of the wet over the top. You'll find that's a little bit thicker. Again, all candy have recommended 50 psi, but you know, read the tech sheet. It's actually around 30-35 psi that I would recommend, and that's going to lay down nice and smooth when you're painting out. I've painted it at 50. I've done my own car at 50, and it works, but I think it's a bit excessive like on the other one, so you can drop it down a bit. I'd say anywhere from, you know, 30-35, stick around that, and then you'll find a sweet spot. And again, whatever gun you recommend or what you're used to using, Starter Jet, the Vilbis, you know, it is what it is. It's all good. So that's the one there. That's the good all-rounder. The Wet Plus is the one that I would be reaching for on everything from an everyday base coat, clear coat. Even if you want to do a re-clear, the Wet Plus is good. That's the one. Now, this is the big boy. This is the big boy. This is the big brother, the WetWet Extreme. Comes out at 53%, but once you put the reducer in it, it's going to knock it down a bit closer to the Wet Plus, but it still comes out thicker. And I'll show you a panel I've done recently in that, and I did a re-clear, just a tester for Chris's car, the 63 Impala you see in the back there. Now this one here is the only clear coat out of the WetWet family that uses a reducer. The rest of them are just straight, it's a straight mix. The Wet Plus there is 2-to-1. And the OG, the original WetWet, that is 4-to-1 with no reducer. So this one here, because it is that little bit thicker, they include the reducer to thin it down. And that's a 4-1-1. So that's 4 parts of your clear, 1 part of your activator, and 1 part of your reducer. And again, I used that recently, and I used my 1.2 Starter Jet there, which we know it pumps out more than your average 1.2. So it's more like a 1.3 and above. And that laid it down beautiful. This color chip here, before anyone asks, that is Cotton Candy, and that's just got the Wet Plus over the top, a couple of coats there. So the Wet Extreme, again, if you're sticking around 35 and above, you'll find a sweet spot where it lays down nice and smooth. You'll notice that it's a little bit extra thicker. I'd be putting it over my candies for sure, because you've got the extra protection, but on a candy job you'd be doing the double re-clear anyway, like we're doing on Chris's car. So the 63 Impala you see in the back has got the Wet Plus over the top of the candy. We put a good 3 coats of that on, flat it down, and then we're going to be going ahead with the WetWet Extreme over the top. And I'll show you a panel which I've done. This is a test panel, which came out beautiful, nice and deep, thick, glossy, exactly what we're after. Pretty hard to see because we're just inside the garage at the minute, but you know, you can see the reflection of the can. You get the idea. It's nice, deep and glossy, so that's what you can expect really. So I hope that's cleared up a few things just about the wet clears. The 3 main that we're bringing in through the candy factory. The OG WetWet, 4-to-1, no reducer. The Wet Plus, the good all-rounder, that's around 42% and upwards. And we've got the big boy Extreme at 53. So that's yeah, that's pretty much it for the quick rundown. That's just a little bit of a leftover in the cup. That's probably about 24-25 hours now it's been in there. That's the Extreme, still in the cup. I'm going to keep an eye on it over the next couple of weeks and see what it does, but it looks pretty good. Clear as well. So yeah, there's a bit of a rundown on the clears. If you want any more information, just give me a shout. info@candyfactory.com.au. I'll answer all your questions. Website coming soon. We've got stock, small amount of stock, but we've got some in. So if you're in Perth, you can buy it straight off the counter. Total Paints in Malaga. And yeah, come in and say hello. Check it out.
Rolling down, riding with the homies, and you know that I'm cops is on the corner, but you know that I'm playing Morrow safe, yeah, you know that I'm blowing smiley faces, man, I feel so
out of this world, out of my mind, slowly retracing these enemy lines, step up to find I'm ahead of my time, repping the city.